A 25-year-old man arrested in the U.S. city of Baltimore. Witnesses watched as police officers dragged him into the back of a police wagon, all the while he was screaming in apparent pain. After a 30-minute ride in that wagon, Freddie Gray was no longer screaming. In fact, he wasn't even speaking. Gray would spend a week in a coma at a Baltimore hospital. Doctors told his family his spine was 80% severed. Last weekend, Gray died. His injuries and death have sparked protests in Baltimore and demands for answers from top officials. Activists say allegations of police brutality are not new in Baltimore or in the United States in general. CCTV's Roy Ruttenberg has insight.
How do you find them on breaking his spine? How do you find them on murder?
Protests in West Baltimore as residents demand answers. Specifically, how a local young man ended up dead with a fatal spinal cord injury. It all began on a Sunday morning, April 12th. Mobile phone video captured several police officers dragging 25-year-old Freddie Gray into the back of a police vehicle. Police say they chased Gray after he made eye contact with an officer, then ran. After tackling him, police say he had an illegal knife. They arrested him.
What we know is that while in police custody for committing no crime, for which they had no justification for making an arrest except it was a black man running, his spine was virtually severed.
Police say Gray began acting, quote, irate in the back of the vehicle. After driving a little more than a block, the driver stopped and called for backup. A second mobile phone video captures Gray again on the pavement as police further constrain him. 42 minutes after his initial arrest, police call paramedics to take Gray to hospital. He was there in a coma for a week until he died.
These men behind us are deadly killers.
Sparking outrage in his hometown and drawing national attention to police use of force.
The demonstrators here in Baltimore say they're not only angry over the death of Freddie Gray, but are also frustrated over years of complaints of police brutality that have been largely ignored.
An investigation by the Baltimore Sun newspaper shows that since 2011, the city has paid more than $6 million to settle claims of police misconduct. And Baltimore is not alone. Investigations in other cities revealed Chicago has paid out $500 million in settlements over the past decade. Oakland, $74 million since 1990. Minneapolis, $21 million since 2003. And New York is projected to spend $815 million in 2016.
I think it's sad because more so that the fact that they had to pay it out for doing things that were inappropriate. They're paying lawsuits out because someone was mishandled or mistreated or even deaf, and none of that should happen.
Tessa Hill-Aston leads the local chapter of a national civil rights group.
I think it's a whole lot going on across the whole United States. I think there's a lot of good policemen, but there's a lot of renegade people. And when they're out, I think their adrenaline flows. They might be scared of the community or scared, but if they're afraid, they need to not to have the job.
Tawanda Jones says she knows that all too well. Her brother, Tyrone West, died in Baltimore during a traffic stop nearly 2 years ago. She says up to 15 officers beat her brother. But the medical examiner's office, which conducted the autopsy, couldn't definitively say the officers caused his death. It said other factors, like a heart condition and dehydration, were also to blame.
Prosecute these killer cops. We gave you the facts. You said let the chips fall where they may, and they still ain't fall yet. We're still waiting for them to fall. And I'm praying in Freddie Gray case that they fall where they may.
As the Freddie Gray investigation continues, Baltimore City's police commissioner is urging residents to be patient.
If I was a parent and that was my child that I lost, I would be concerned in it. I want to know and I want to react. But our job is also to have balance and not to rush to a conclusion.
Today is Freddie Gray. Tomorrow it could very well be you.
Roy Ruttenberg, CCTV in Baltimore, Maryland.